Hello everyone, it's me again, and it's time for another thrilling edition of Comics and Cocktails, where I drink more alcohol than I rightfully need at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday night and talk about comics. Today's cocktail is gin and tonic, which I find that I enjoy quite a lot. Well, of course I spill it on myself, because that's what very composed people do with their time. Side note, gin and tonic is actually like my mixed drink headcanon for Hank Pym. Like, he doesn't drink a whole lot of alcohol, but if he does drink mixed drink, if he does, then it's usually like gin and tonic. Or Sam Adams, which actually I pulled from my friend, because they said that he should drink Sam Adams. And that's his, but I don't drink very much beer, so I was like, oh, sure, I'll go with that. Yeah. Oh, that would be a cool video for me to do for Comics and Cocktails. It's just like alcohol headcanons for different characters, which I'll do that next time I do like a special like Q&A. Maybe. Yeah, I was lazy today and I didn't want to go to the comic book store, so I'm doing questions. And I only got 3 questions because people are silly and don't like to ask me questions. So the first question is from my girlfriend, Sydney, and it is, what's your favorite supervillain? I'm really bad at picking favorites, but, I don't know. I really don't know. I really like Ultron in the comics, not in the MCU. I hate MCU Ultron. I hate MCU Ultron so much. I just Comic Ultron is like kind of like talking to like a force of nature, to be honest. Because there's no reasoning with him. He's just like, he has this goal, he's gonna go for it, and it's just, he's not affected by any sort of argument, logos, ethos, pathos. He doesn't care. It's just, he's going for it's like arguing with a hurricane. It's like, hey, Hurricane Ultron, do you want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? Wait, let's talk about the logic of this. No? Oh, okay. And then, everything is gone. I'm also a big fan of the Gotham City Sirens. Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy, Catwoman. But I kind of feel weird classifying Catwoman as a supervillain because she's not always a villain. And then Harley and Ivy, I love them so much, but they are supervillains, I'm pretty sure. Well, Ivy you might classify as an anti-villain, which is like a villain whose cause you can support, because Ivy is all about protecting environment and Earth, and I like Harley and Ivy together also. So the next question I got was actually chronologically, I got this question before that, but I decided to order it this way, was from Charlie, and he asks, what changes have you seen in supervillains after the whole post-Frank Miller alteration of series like Batman and Daredevil? And I'm going to be honest, I don't know who Frank Miller is off the top of my head. I had to Google him, and I only kind of read his Wikipedia page, but he seems to be one of those dark, edgy writers. So, since I've only recently gotten into comics, I haven't really noticed a change in supervillains that I could specifically attribute to any one writer, but I have noticed, I've noticed the dark and edgy trend, and I don't like how heroes look when they're dark and edgy, because they tend to be morally gray, and that seems to be and a lot of dark and edgy things writing with heroes, when they make them morally gray, it's an implied that you have to be morally gray, because there's no way to be, like, morally upstanding and right in the real world, which is bullshit, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. Also, can you check out my hair for a bit? I'm distracted by it again. I feel like if there was a pie chart of this, it would be like this much actual comic reviews, and like the rest would be Lydia complimenting your own hair. So we definitely noticed a change between like older style villains and newer style villains. Because older style villains, you've got, you know, they might have they have motivations, I guess, and they have backstories and stuff. And, you know, even if they're like well fleshed out characters, they're explicitly evil. Then in later on stories, you get into like this gray and gray morality, or this gray and black morality, where the heroes will do a lot of morally gray things while the villains do a lot of like outright evil things. Like I said, I don't know any of Frank Miller's stories off the top of my head. Even if I've read them, I probably don't know them off the top of my head because I have horrible recollection for names. So I hope you weren't looking for like actual answers to your questions. But another thing the dark and edgy trend does is actually something's the same between like older things and like dark and edgy things, is they still have this tendency to have like villains who are evil because they're crazy, which I hate a lot. I cannot stand it. It annoys me to no end. Like, I'd be okay with like one or two. I'm okay with mentally ill villains, but with pretty much all villains being evil because they're mentally ill annoys me, especially since you don't have a whole lot of heroes representing mental illness. It's another reason why I like Hank Pym. I don't know if you knew this, but I like Hank Pym a lot, and this keeps coming up because I am a nerd. So that's my spiel on that, and I don't know. I've heard Frank Miller's name before, I just don't know what he wrote. So finally, the last question is, does Brad love Zaris? For those of you who don't know, Zaris is one of Dracula's son in Marvel's vampire lore. Dracula has two sons that I know of. He has Zaris and Janus, maybe? One of them's good, one of them's evil. Zaris is the evil one. And Zaris one day was like, I'm gonna unite all the vampire clans and we're gonna take over the world. And with the mutants, because mutants and vampires should totally be bros. And so he was like, yeah, everybody join me. And he kills Dracula, and all the other vampires are like, oh my god, he just did that. And so some vampires went to side with him, and some sided with his brother, Janus. Among the vampires that sided with Zaris was Brad from the Mysticos clan. And the Mysticos clan is the nerds of vampires, so they're all into, like, technology. And Brad was second in command, but then he let the leader of the Mysticos clan got killed, so Brad was in charge. And my friends and I made this joke that Brad and Zaris were married. Which I don't know how that happened. Oh, because I was trying to make a roleplay blog for Brad. And I wanted to have the URL Brad the Impaler, but that was taken. So I was going with, like, Brad Tepes, which isn't how you pronounce that, but it's Dracula's last name. And so then we were joking that since that would be Zaris' last name, that Brad and Zaris were married. And anyway, so the answer to the question is, in all seriousness, all, like, inside jokes aside, if you actually like looking at the Curse of the Mutants arc, Brad doesn't actually love Zaris. He's just... Brad's the sort of person who attaches himself to the biggest fish he can find, and, you know, rides them as high as they'll take them, and when he doesn't need them anymore, he parts ways with them and lets them get disposed of by other people. He did it with the leader of the Mysticus clan before him, and then he did with Zarus, and then he was kind of by himself, and so taking power for himself, finally, with the help of the leader of I think it's the Siren Sect, which are, femme fatale, sexy vampires. Her name is Alyssa, so Brad and Alyssa, which sounds less like evil vampires and more like the bad guys in a high school movie. So no, Brad does not love Zarus, but he will totally suck Zarus' dick as long as it gets Brad more power. And that's all that I have for today. So next week I'll probably do regular comics reviews again. And in the near future I'll be doing Fantastic Four as soon as I see that in theaters. So, bye!